One of the conclusions that I came to with my research on supernatural is that certain categories of beings that are referred to in traditions all around the world, shamans call them spirits. In medieval Europe, they were called fairies and elves. And in modern society, I would suggest they're called aliens. That all of these are the result of experiences in altered states of consciousness. And that if we are in the alert, problem-solving mode of consciousness, we are not going to have those experiences. But in an altered state of consciousness, there's a remarkable unanimity and uniformity and similarity amongst these three supposedly different categories of beings: spirits, fairies, and so-called aliens.
All right, so when people go through a near-death experience, just to a brief summary, they have this transcendental experience where they have all of these items occur. Now, as I said, this is a chart from research. This is published scientific research. So these are the things that people feel when they die. Because as on that other scientific consensus statement for the future research of near-death experiences, they're trying to relabel the idea of near-death experience to recalled death experience, because all of these things happen when people have been clinically dead. So what happens? So this is and at the top of the list is the most prominent things that happens to the listing that happens, and this is a comparison of the NDE items and the DNT experience, which is the psychedelic, the entheogen experience. So unearthly environment, peace, pleasantness, heightened senses, harmony, unity, altered time perception. So they are outside of their bodies, encountering mystical being or presence. This is where the light beings come about. This is where the quote-unquote demons come about. Separation from the body, feelings of joy, bright light. So what do we see here is the mystical beings. Before I move forward, I would like to remind you that if you want to join the growing discussion on consciousness and would like to be notified on the latest scientific discoveries and theories surrounding this topic and how they connect to ancient mythologies and philosophies, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, as I'll try to upload at least one video per week as I continue with the outline. The bright light and the separation of the body. This is scientific research. So what is Manichaeanism telling us? Manichaeanism is telling us that this is particles of light, and one thing that I didn't actually see here a lot is this whole separation of matter and the physical and the non-physical. So it's the spirit and matter and the flesh and spirit and so on and so forth. These are different ways that Christianity and the Abrahamic religions talk about this thing, but it's basically the physical and non-physical. This is very present in Manichaeanism as well. So what is research telling us? It's telling us that there is a separation from the body. So now when we look into these ancient scriptures and when we see Mani talking about the spirit and the flesh and the matter and the physical world versus a perfect world of light, what is light? Light is electromagnetic energy at the core. So this is non-physical pure energy, and this is what people are experiencing in these near-death experiences. So everything is coming together. Okay, so we go back to the original Wikipedia thing that we were seeing about the dark elves and the light elves. So this whole comparison, as I said, is not a basic dualism of Christianity. This dualism in Christianity is quite deeper and more pronounced, and it's all over the place. Holsmark has been credited with demonstrating that Snorri Sturluson, this who wrote these ancient scriptures, borrowed from Christian writings, specifically that Snorri's description of the specific Norse mythology is the third heaven in the cosmology of Snorri. The third heaven, populated by light elves, this Alfheim that I'm looking at, was almost certainly influenced by and possibly based on the account of the angels in the Elucidarius. So now this Elucidarium is Christian theology and folk belief, everything coming together. So is this folk belief? Is this Christian mythology? Or is this something else that perhaps, like the allegory of the elephant, everybody's looking at the same thing, touching different parts, and everybody explains it differently, but it's the same thing. So is this just borrowing from other texts, or could this be just different cultures looking at the same thing? So when we have this Christian philosophy talking about the same thing, then we have Manichaeanism, which was thought to be a different aspect, like a rival of Christianity, like a different thing, and it happened at the same time but in different places. So this was on the 3rd century. In the 3rd century, Christians were still being prosecuted and killed, and Christian was still on the catacombs, on the subterranean, on the tunnels below the cities, and trying to evolve. So it's not like they took from each other. It's like they were looking at the same thing through like angels or revelations or strange things that happened to them, strange encounters. And they are talking about the same thing. And as I say, this is science right now. So is it that the heaven that they're looking at, so this scientific research, are they all bringing, these are atheists. A lot of these people who experience these things are atheists, and they're still seeing bright light. They're still having this separation from the body and encountering mystical beings and presences. Are they also borrowing from Christian literature? Or is it that we are looking into something much more complex here? Okay, so then we have Rudolf Simek, Gabriel, Tourville, Petre feel rather the dark and light aspects of the same beings, not inherently unlikely. Death and fertility cults often being closely related. So I think the idea that we have, the modern materialist idea, is that these people were primitive and they were trying to come up with nonsense. It's more complex than that. I bet it's more complex than that. Since the Prose Edda describes the Dokalfar, these are the Dark Elves, as being subterranean dwellers. They may be dwarves under another name, in the opinion of a number of scholars such as John Lindow. So the dwarves is a type of supernatural being in Germanic folklore. Accounts of dwarves vary significantly throughout history. However, they are commonly but not exclusively presented as living in mountains or stones and being skilled craftspeople in early literary sources. So they are craftsmen, they are these dwarves. Now these dwarves, nowhere does it say that they were small bearded men. This is more a thing about science fiction and fantasy. The dwarves were these, a lot of scholars also suggest the idea that these dark elves, the dwarves, they are the same thing. There are the as I say, Manichaeanism is the world of light and the world of darkness. So it's the same thing. Now, an interesting thing here is that they live in the subterranean. They live under the earth. Now, when we go into the whole literature of the alien, so then we have altered states of consciousness, with NDEs and psychedelic experiences and spiritually transformative experiences. And then we have a new thing that we're looking into, which is the alien extraterrestrial disclosure phenomenon that a lot of people are talking about, and they're coming with all the whole literature that there are beings living inside the earth, and they're coming from other places, and this whole thing starts coming together. We're talking about the same thing. I'm not gonna go into that straight away, but I'm just mentioning it because it might be part of the same thing. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, Grimm's Trinity right here. Jacob Grimm surmised that the proto-elf was probably a light-colored white good spirit, while the dwarves may have been conceived as black spirits. By relative comparison, the two classes of creatures were getting confounded, and there arose a need to coin the term light elf, white elves, to refer to elves proper. This was counterpart to the dark elf, black elf. So what he's saying here is that these are basically spirits. These are not physical things. These are not elves with pointy ears or dwarves with stocky bodies and big birds. These are basically spirits. And when you think about elves, fairies in the original traditional sense of the idea, we're talking about a non-physical beings, a supernatural phenomenon. Now, as I said, this all ties with the whole alien mythos, the alien extraterrestrial phenomena and literature that is running around. And I featured this before. somewhere. Everything is going to be linked below, all the links below, all the videos just related to this that I've talked about this are going to be linked below. So UFO and alien encounters are associated with altered states of consciousness, with witnesses, contactees, abductees, experiences, regular reporting, loss of bodily control, missing time, a transference of information and or dialogue between themselves and the UFOnauts via telepathy, this is very important, deep feelings of euphoria or terror, a sense of intimate connectedness to existence, and sometimes with the UFOnauts themselves, in which the thoughts and minds of the participants meld seamlessly together and reveal themselves as being part of a unity, a linking of past, present and future, and a sense of ascending or descending throughout vistas of space, sometimes simultaneously, for example, a sensation of descending into a deep cavernous darkness while also ascending into outer space. Many reported experiences are highly reminiscent or are outright concrete instantiations of hypnagogic and hypnopompic hallucination. Willie Streamer something something. So this is something about the UFO alien encounters. Alright, so when it comes to this topic of alien contact and abduction and this whole thing, it is still very taboo. A lot of people are really scared about these topics and items, but as time goes on and the quote-unquote disclosure agenda extends, it's something that we have to accept, something that we have to look into, and it's some of the newest research out there. This is ongoing research. We don't know the nature of it, but as Graham Hancock says in the beginning of this video, it seems to be the better understanding of all these ancient mythologies and ancient beings and creatures, is what we used to call spirits or ghosts or whatever, and now we are looking through the lens of alien, extraterrestrial or interdimensional, as it's starting to go in the mainstream. So the point of this video is to look into ancient mythology and look into these ancient beings and so on and so forth, and Manichaeanism and all of these things, and not look at them like they were crazy people, like these quote-unquote scholars that I pointed out in this video, which saying, oh, this is just a basic influence from Christianity or the gods of fertility. No. We're talking about the complex duality between quote-unquote light beings and quote-unquote dark beings, negative beings, or something of that nature. Now, another thing that I want to point out is that a lot of people are afraid of this alien phenomenon and the abductions. Are they conducting studies or not? Do they want to invade us? Do they want to hurt us? A lot of people think that this is the case. Now, as I said, this is ongoing research. I've been covering this in this channel. I will keep on covering this. But when you go deep into it, you realize that it's not even in the whole duality. It's not that these are extremely evil beings. Just there are some instances of that when it comes to the people encountering demons or negative hellish near-death experiences or negative psychedelic trips. It has to do mostly with an inner battle, with an inner sort of self-realization. When you talk about psychedelic trips and so on and so forth. Even a lot of these writers on ufology and alien contact and abduction, they end up saying that the whole thing has to do with spiritual evolution, with consciousness evolution, with the sharing of technology and so on and so forth. It's a whole interdimensional consciousness thing. It's not about beings coming from a different place trying to invade us. It's about realizing the interconnectedness that is in quantum physics, that is in altered states of consciousness, and that is playing out in everything that we are finding out. Even in the most negative cases, when people talk about these abductions where they are being laid on a table and looked at by different beings and so on and so forth, in a lot of these cases there are healings. A lot of these has to do with the fact that perhaps these beings, as it says on all these ancient scriptures and so on and so forth, they had a role in creating the human bodies that we inhabit. So they have all this technology to come back and forward, to shapeshift, to materialize and dematerialize. If they have this technology, they know exactly what's happening in our reality. So in these most negative cases, it has to do with that. There's another theory which says that these beings are trying to use our DNA, what we have, to improve themselves. So there's this connection. This is why I think that's what the whole communion book has to do with it, with Whitley Strieber. So there's a lot of things. So in the even in the negative cases, in the most positive cases, in the most positive research on this phenomenon, there's this whole idea, as it is stated in ancient mythologies with the Tuatha de Danann and with these quote-unquote light elves. It's all about righteousness, about creating, getting closer to quote-unquote God and evolving and so on and so forth. These beings, the fair-haired beings in mythologies, they brought technology, they brought knowledge to humans, and so that is on the more positive scale. So there's nothing to be afraid of. And if there is a negative aspect to the alien UFO phenomenon, we should be researching it, we should know about it, and we should be trying to find the truth. But this is unlikely, because most of the research, most of everything, despite of how convoluted it seems to be, at the end of the day, what seems to be going on seems to be much more positive and fantastic that any religion, mythology, philosophy has ever come up with. Thank you so much for watching. If you find any value in the content that I'm putting forward, please consider supporting the project through Patreon on the links below. Likewise, you can like, share, subscribe, comment, or follow me on other social media so more people have access to this information. Thank you so much for watching, and maybe I'll see you in the next one.